join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is held in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The news media has been notified, and a copy of the agenda has been made available to the public. This meeting is open to the public, but with limited first-come, first-served seating due to COVID-19. All persons wishing to attend the meeting by virtual means may do so via YouTube, Sumter School District Board Meetings, and Sumter School District Facebook page. Vision. Sumter School District is committed to educating, empowering, and enriching the lives of all students to reach their full potential. Mission. Sumter School District is committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and high-quality educational environment that supports diversity and equips students for the local and global success. Your board members are Dr. Barbara Jackson, yours truly, Area 7 Chairwoman, Dr. J. Frank Baker, Seat 8, Vice Chair, Dr. Darrell McGaney, Area 5 Clerk, Mr. Brian Alston, Area 1, Mrs. Cheryl Ray, Area 2, Mr. Matt McLeod, Area 3. He will be joining us shortly. Okay, well, he's trying to get through the door now. Okay. Mr. Matt McLeod is joining us now. Dr. John B. Hilton, Area 4. Dr. Gloria Lee is joining us virtually, and we'd like to welcome her to joining us this evening. She had an accident, and Dr. Hilton had surgery. Dr. Sean T. Reagan, Area 9. The Shaw Air Force representative will be announced later, because that person is transitioning. Dr. Penelope Martin Knox is our superintendent, and Mrs. Amy Hanson is our administrative manager. This meeting is now called to order. I want to take this time to welcome you to Millwood Elementary School. We're so pleased that each of you has a heart for children and our school district, and we are pleased that you have chosen to join us this Valentine's Day. I also would like to thank Dr. Leach, Cornelius Leach, principal of Millwood School, and his Millwood Mustang staff for hosting this meeting this evening. Are there any objections to the approval of the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda will stand approved. The Board of Trustees is pleased to offer time on the agenda for public participation both in person and electronically. At this time, we will open the floor for public comments, not to exceed 15 minutes or 3 minutes for each participant. Following in-person comments, Executive Director of Communication and Community Engagement, Ms. Shelley Galloway, will read the electronic submission. At this time, I don't think that we have any electronic submission. So our first person that will be coming before us this evening is Chris Benahally.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, would you please just come to the table here and take a seat and present your consent paperwork. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for allowing me a few minutes this evening. Thank you to all that have come out from the community and support as well. I'm going to try not to be all over the place, so I apologize in advance. It's been a long one day. After having some conversations with folks in the community, reading various things, it seems like there's a very big divide, or disconnect, if you will, between the board and the parents in the community, et cetera. So part of my concern is how can we fix that, both sides, if you will. I'll just read some of the points that I have here, so bear with me, please. Between statements released by certain board members, conversations within the community, it does seem pretty clear that there is some dissension within the school board. There's also a lot of concern over the fact that we're about to hire another superintendent. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the 5th in 11-year span. I'm not sure exactly. I think Ivan posted something about that recently in their paper. But it seems like a lot. Many people feel like personal agendas and politics are poisoning the school board and subsequently our schools. And I'm kind of curious as to what the board members' thoughts are, maybe why that is. What is your take on that? From the dissension within the superintendent turnover and the public view as a whole. What are your thoughts on that, and what are your plans to change on that? A lot of people feel like the entire school board needs to be replaced. Other people think that just a couple of the board members are worth keeping. What are your thoughts on how we can all bridge this gap and gain a better understanding of one another and each other's viewpoints, if you will? I think that we're at a critical time in which parents really need to have a better idea of what's going on so we can take an appropriate action on supporting the right personnel and replacing those that aren't. With that being said, and this may sound like a crazy idea, but I was curious to see if any board members would be willing to do, and maybe if this already exists, forgive me, but maybe put like your profile on the website, the district website, or you can create a video of yourself. Tell us some of your stances on things in the school district. What are your plans on improving certain things, the obstacles you've seen, things of that nature. I think, for me personally, that'd be helpful, and I can imagine a lot of the parents might feel the same way. They have a more intimate look to who's on our school board. Lastly, where we at?
You've got it on that.
Okay, probably just enough. So back in November, I went to a school board meeting, and one of the questions that I posed was when we were going to lift the mask mandate. The response that I got back in writing said, quote, "We will continue to adhere to the guidelines and recommendations from the Department of Health and Environmental Control and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention," end quote. So DHEC and the CDC have never mandated mask wearing. It's always been recommended, things of that nature. That, in my opinion, should have left up to parents all along. At this point now, we're finally seeing medical experts and educators alike finally start talking about the negative effects of mask wearing, especially in children. There's a tremendous risk for mental health issues, along with medical issues, that can arise from prolonged mask wearing. Small children rely on facial expressions for a lot of their learning, including the ability to form a vocabulary. Older children, like teenagers for example, are experiencing increased levels of depression. A large part of a child's identity is how they look, and those that, they lose that when forced to wear masks. And we can debate all day long about the effectiveness of masks, especially the cloth ones. But the bottom line is that the mandate needs to be lifted immediately. And I know this is a highly debated thing, if you will, across the entire country. I don't want this to be a me against you kind of thing, the maskers, anti-maskers, all that crap. It shouldn't be that way, but it should be a choice for the parents. A lot of school districts across the country right now are starting to remove their mandates. And I just personally feel like it's time that some school districts do the same thing. A lot of parents choose. Thank God for your time. I appreciate it.
And thank you also, Superintendent. Okay. Our next person is, Mr. Robert Ryan Smith.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I have handouts for the board and for the super. May I approach? Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me a moment to be heard this evening. I come before you as a very concerned parent. I admit through the incident that occurred with my daughter on the evening of January 27th at the Sumter High School bus board, it raised a level of awareness in me that I didn't know until that occurrence. It made me do a lot of research, maybe look at a lot of policies and try to understand and grasp the depth and the vigor of these policies and their appropriateness to the school district, and to see what applicable laws and rules, both state and federal, were being covered, and those that maybe weren't. I had the opportunity to review our codes of conduct, both for the teachers and staff, as well as the students, which is separate and distinct. And what I've learned is that while it probably meets the intent of the law, I question the spirit of the law. And what I mean by that is that our code of conduct for students gives tremendous latitude to the respective principals of our respective schools at all levels to determine what discipline, if any, to apply. And I submit to you, there are no absolutes in your code of conduct, or our code of conduct. I will, just as a sidebar, I will mention that one of our sister districts, this is a point of reference, Ori District, I learned that their particular set of policies with regard to behavior and regard to discipline, that's very concise, very applicable, and I do think it meets not just the intent, the spirit of all laws, rules, and regulations. Someone may want to look into that, to cross-reference how they've done it and what they've done, as maybe a model for us to consider, at least perhaps parts of it. But I'm here today to speak about my daughter. My daughter is a sophomore at Sumter High. On or around 5 p.m. on Thursday, January 27th, she was accosted at the bus board. We have several student sworn statements. We have video evidence, which I personally reviewed 3 times, 13 minutes each time. While the video is not coherent.
1 minute.
1 minute left? Okay, I guess I must rush. In any event, I've had the opportunity to speak to some city council persons and to some of the board members before me, and of course our superintendent. I will make a footnote, Reverend McGaney, I apologize. I did speak to you, we spoke, and I left your name off the footnote. I'm very, very concerned that this district, I'm just going to focus on Sumter, this is the one that matters to me at the moment. The discipline, lack thereof in our school district is of great concern, not just for my daughter who was assaulted, but for all the children in our district. We're here, we have mottos, we have cliches, they're all nice. But that's not what we're here to do. We're here to educate the students. If the students do not feel comfortable and safe and protected, they're not going to learn. So no school board can protect the students all the time from incidents such as this. I'm not a fool, I'm a pragmatist, but I'm a realist.
Dr. Jackson is
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Mayor, 3 minutes is up.
Okay, well, I appreciate your time. I don't need to read the report, and that's why you didn't. Everyone can read it for themselves, and I look forward to a written reply to my concerns in the voluminous report in the allotted time. Thank you.
And thank you so much for sharing, and I'm sure you'll hear back from us. Okay, our next person for public participation is Ms. Patty Wilson.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm not gonna take a whole enormous amount of time. First and foremost, good to see all of you. And thank you. I am here, just for a bit of clarification. And also, I'm here for a lot of concern that I have for the Sumter School District and all the kids here. I want to say something that I am extremely concerned about. First and foremost, I'm concerned that, Madam Superintendent, that I hear that you may be leaving. I am extremely concerned that we're going to let her leave. I hear that it's very plausible that there may be, very possible, quite really, we might be able to salvage that. I'm not sure. When I learned that she was leaving, I just laid my ear to the community. And I'm hearing that the community, quite frankly, does not want our district superintendent to leave us. They don't want her to leave. I'm saying that again. They do not want our district superintendent to leave us. And whatever we can do to salvage that, I am begging you all, I implore you all as a board, if it can be done, let us try and do it. Let's salvage that relationship if we can. I'm asking you. One thing I'm quite concerned about is the district superintendent has been with us, and I don't want to understate it or overstate it. I think she's been with us about 3 years, if I'm correct. And I'm learning that she's only had I think an evaluation about once since she's been with us. And my question would beg to be answered as to why not, why she's not had a performance review. That's a question that needs to be answered. And I think if she's leaving, she should have had a performance review, quite frankly. And I'm asking why she hasn't had one. That would be a question to be answered. Because when I was with the board, if I'm not mistaken, we were supposed to do one annual. And then for this period of time, she should have probably had one by now. And that concerns me. The other thing I had was goals and you know, if you don't assign goals and objectives, how would you know what you're doing, good, bad, or indifferent? And I can only tell you what I'm listening to. I'm listening to the Sumter community. Because Sumter community has told all the good things that she's doing. What are the bad things? I haven't heard anything really bad. And I've been traveling Richmond and coming back to Sumter, Richmond and coming back to Sumter. And I can assure you, each time that I get back here, all I can tell you is how good the Sumter is doing. The Sumter School District is doing a dynamic job, and it's under the leadership of our district superintendent. So if you can, and if you will, convince of this fact. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Okay, our next person for public participation is Mr. Keith Schultz.
Started the clock already?
Not yet.
Okay, good. Welcome, good evening, how y'all? Okay. I'm gonna stand up so everybody can hear me. Those folks with masks on can't hear too good back there.
Mr. Schultz, would you please have a seat?
All right.
Thank you.
I'll do it, I'll move this mask off, that's all. Okay, last Tuesday, advertised all across the network, let's have a finance meeting. Showed up, gentlemen, public. The building's locked slam tight. 5 cars around the building, all of them on the administrative side, nobody to open the door. I'm thinking, gee, that's a pretty serious FOIA violation. For those of you, that's Freedom of Information Act, where that stuff has to be disclosed. Oh, sure, I could have got on Zoom, the Sumter School District Facebook and watched it, but no, I've been around long enough. Our finance committee has a history of non-performance. Now, our chairperson, finance chairwoman, that ultimately is your responsibility to make sure the public has access to that building. You failed us miserably. Secondly, there are 6 of you on this board that are up for re-election in November. And we don't see just how many of you we can replace. Because it is a fact, not a rumor, it is a fact that $6.2 million of our money went missing for a period of 23 months while 2 of you sitting in front of me didn't know what was happening or knew it was happening and didn't say nothing about it. 23 months, $6.2 million. That happened. Before that, District 17, Joe Klein, 17-something $million. And every time Sumter County says, no, you can't have no more money, y'all concerned about why. You're irresponsible with our money. And you're not advancing the scale of our education. It is time to get back to educating our children. Take the mask off these kids, put them on the teachers, and upgrade our education level in Sumter County before we truly land in, you heard it before, the corridor of shame. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Okay. Ms. Tia McDuffie.
Good afternoon. I'm just gonna read a letter that I wrote to the board. I only got responses from 2 board members. I want to express my concern about the search for a current superintendent. I'm wondering why Sumter School District is again looking for a new superintendent. There's no person better qualified for the position other than the current superintendent, Dr. Penelope Martin Knox. A leader who obviously cares for our children of Sumter County, as she has seen in the school and community engagement and interaction with them. A leader who leads by example and fills in when necessary. A leader who is leading with compassion. A leader who has proved she is fiscally and financially responsible, as our school district currently has a surplus instead of being over $6 million in debt. I could go on and on. What more can you ask for? Why isn't Dr. Martin Knox being offered a contract? These are answers that the community wants to know. Why is this contract not being extended? What has she done? She has the qualities I'm looking for in a superintendent. Finally, maybe it's time the citizens of Sumter get a new school board. It's obvious some of the current members of this school board does not recognize the characteristics of a good leader. I think she deserves to be offered a contract. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna, turn it in. I did.
Thank you, Ms. McDuffie. Okay, our next person is Ms. Tina Fullmore.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to address y'all, this afternoon about my son. Do I need to call the high school or the counselor name? I just want to,
No names.
okay, no names, okay. No high school, either, the name of the high school, you don't call it?
First, not called.
You don't want me to call, that's why I want to make sure before, okay. At this particular high school in Sumter County, my son's supposed to be a senior this year, and he have obviously equipment to be a senior, but this particular high school keep holding him back. Okay, read a little bit because I wrote it down. I won't call the name. My name is Tina Fullmore. My son's name is Demetrius Fullmore. Demetrius, he's medical homebound now, and he's in intensive student, and he's special education program. But I've been going around with this particular counselor at the high school since the beginning of the semester. And about my child graduating this year. It was his class. I've been talking to I'm talking to a person at the district office. I can't call her name. I'll just say doctor. I'll leave it at that. At the district office. Since I can't call her name. But she didn't come out to me, approach me or anything. It was her secretary, her assistant. So basically, I was back and forth from the school to the school district office in Sumter. So basically what I'm trying to tell you, my son was put in different classes. They didn't put him in the right classes. They put him in the right class, they took him back out. They put him in English 4 this semester, and they took him back out. He was in it probably for a week. He was working on it, but they pulled him back out of English 4. They just had some reason they had all those classes just kind of mess up. And basically what I'm trying to explain to y'all, the first semester, he did fail English 4, but I thought the counselor would put him in recovery English 4, but she didn't. I'm gonna say it like that, she did, and she took him back out. And then she withdrew him from all he needed to graduate now really is pro and stat. English 4, which she took him back out of English 4 for some reason, I don't know. He should have been in an English 4 class now. And a chemistry class he's taking online for virtual SC. I have all the proof that she pulled him in and out of the class. I can get all that for y'all, but I won't have the documentation with me at the moment. But I can get all that. Y'all can either check the record, you see what I'm talking about. So from this school. So all I'm asking y'all, could y'all please look into it? Because I've been running around since the first of the semester, from the first semester to now. And now then they put him in another class, it doesn't even exist. It's not even on his Google Classroom. And I'm still going back and forth with them now.
Okay.
And it's not being solved.
All right.
It's not being solved at all. And I'm back from the high school back to the district office.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fuller. What we will do is make sure that concerns are, and someone will reach out. And on behalf of the board, I want to thank the members of the public for expressing your thoughts and concerns regarding the school district. Responses will be shared that may include putting you in contact with the superintendent or per her direction, a staff member that can best answer your question and or address your concerns. Just know that you will be reached out to one way or the other. And again, we do thank you for being a part of public participation. Trustees, are there any announcements you wish to share at this time?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
I would like to thank Dr. Shiree Miller and the entire Career Center for the acts of kindness for Board Appreciation Month. I got a whole lot of gifts, and I left very happy. And I wanted to tell them thank you, and and I told them that I was going to do that here. Also, I would like to say that I too, and you probably hear it again, attended the Sumter High School pageant, and it was a great success. Very beautiful night. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. Olson?
Yes, I would like to recognize Dr. Morris and the staff at Shaw Heights Elementary for my warm welcome during the Leader in Me program in recognition of School Board Appreciation Month. Also, a special shout out to Little Miss Barnes, one of the students at Shaw Heights, who served as my personalized tour guide. If I didn't know any better, I would not have known that she was a student and of her age because of her intellect and her attitude about being my tour guide that day. Also, during my visit there, I got the opportunity to talk to our paraprofessional staff, and hearing some of their concerns was very concerning, where they don't feel as though they are part of our education system, that they're often forgotten, that they only hear about the teachers being recognized. So I just wanted to say personally tonight to our food service staff, our building service staff, our transportation staff, as well as our teaching staff, you all are important and you all serve as an integral part of our student success. So thank you for all of your hard work and everything that you do. As Mr. Reagan alluded to, I also had the opportunity to attend the 40th annual Miss Sumter High pageant, the Miss Unstoppable pageant. And I just wanted to say congratulations to Miss Tori Chapman, Miss Sumter High School 2022, and all the queens that were crowned and all the participants of the pageant. Job well done, ladies. And a job well done to the director as well, Ms. Mitchell. That concludes my announcement. Thank you.
Dr. Jackson,
Yes?
I would like to, good evening to all of you all. I would like to thank Willow Drive, Ms. Principal Thomas for the wonderful welcome that was given to me and to all the students with the lovely posters and beautiful pictures that was given and the outstanding cards. Again, thank you to Willow Drive and to all the staff that's there.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Anyone else? Well, I would like to thank Chestnut Oaks for the wonderful gesture and hospitality extended to me. I was there for board appreciation. So I say to Mrs. Edwards and the staff, kudos and thank you so much for extending the love and the great, what all that you did to make me feel welcome. I do appreciate it and thank you.
Dr. Jackson.
Yes.
I'd just like to recognize R.E. Davis College Prep also for showing me great kindness, all the acts of kindness and what they've done, told and everything, kudos to this Hunter and all of us.
Dr. Jackson.
Yes?
I also thank Manchester Elementary, the administration, faculty, staff, and students for also a tour of the school, some of the classrooms, and the gifts given and appreciated.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I'd like to say thank you to Rapton Creek Elementary and Principal Brandon Wells seen a cake that big in a long time. I don't know where they got it from, but it sure was good. So, thank you, practically over to school.
And I'd like to thank Lamara Elementary, the principal and staff, and especially the students that had lunch with me, and then the tour I went on, and I told them that math was my weak subject, so they took me to 3 math classes to try to remediate me, I guess. So I enjoyed seeing the classes, and we had a good time that day. So thanks to Lamara. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may. Something that I omitted earlier, during the meditative thought, I wanted to request, but if I may request that when we adjourn this meeting this afternoon, can we adjourn this meeting in memory of Mr. Zaire Copley Hammett, our student that we lost at Crossroads Rise Elementary School?
Okay?
Is it time for the,
Oh, no, not yet.
legislative
No,
update?
I just thought you had, what you wanted to give kudos to your school.
Well, Croswell Drive invited me to come over, but because of my surgery on my shoulder, I could not attend at that time. And I will be visiting Croswell Drive sometime in the future. And I'm sure their hospitality will exceed all the hospitality of all that have been expressed here this evening, and I'm looking forward to it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to say to all of our schools and our principals that welcome the board during Board Appreciation Month. Just thank you for the kindnesses extended and shown. And I think that I attended some basketball games. I attended Bates at our Strive. We had some fantastic winners there. And then I attended the Sumter, not Sumter High. I attended the Lakewood and Crestwood game. And we had some winners there as well. So I'd just like to say kudos to all of our great schools in Sumter School District for the excellent job that they're doing. We do appreciate it. We do appreciate it. Any other announcements? If not, we're now moving down to our legislative update. Dr. Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have, before you hand out some information about some activity going on in the legislature. Of particular note are 2 bills, one in the House and one in the Senate, regarding school vouchers. Those 2 bills are very different. The one in the House is very different from the one in the Senate. And I would encourage you to take a look at your handout and make yourself aware of those 2 bills, particularly the one in the House. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hill. Okay, as we now move to committee reports, I would like to begin by sharing that the Citizen Advisory Committee met last week, February 10th, and received updates from each of the committee chairs. The meeting was available on YouTube, and I encourage the public to view the meetings when they're being held, when your time allows. Viewing this meeting as well as other meetings and board meetings will keep the public informed of what is taking place in the meeting and within our school district. I will ask now that the committee chairs share the discussions related to their subjects during their reports. We will now hear from the Facilities Committee, Dr. Reagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We don't really have a report tonight. I'll just pass along to Amy, Ms. Hanson at a later time, the actual tentative dates for this next meeting for the Facilities and Subcommittee to meet in February, as well as the site visits that we have planned. We have not been able to make it to those 3 schools yet. However, I will provide her a tentative date for that as well, and then we'll share it with the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reagan. Next is Finance, Mrs. Ray.
The Finance Committee met February the 8th, and we received the financial reports that were shared at the last board meeting. We did have information that the demolition of the portable units was now completed. That's been something that we've been discussing for a little while. We also talked about school tracks and the high schools and middle schools. Administration shared that there were attempts to cover repairs for school tracks with COVID funds under the social emotional health reasons, but that has been denied. Twice they've tried to do that. We've also been discussing Title IX issues that we have in the district. Work has been done at all the high school softball fields, the dugouts, signs being replaced at Sumter High School. All 3 high schools need updated speakers, and work is being done to balance the needs directly impacting the learning environment. Some of the items expected to be included in the next spring 8% bond issuance. That would be the dressing facilities and concession stands, because that will be quite a bit of financial output there. Also, we discussed that because 90% of our general fund is salary and benefits, we don't have much left to operate on, and the district has been deferring some of the maintenance due to funds that are needed. And it was noted that the district office and annex are last identified for repairs because of the priority to take care of our schools. Current repairs at the district office are a result of multiple attempts to repair the plumbing system. Of course, that was an unexpected expense. We did have some recommendations for the board. One, that the administration present to the board regarding the salary scales, giving us an overview of the complexity of the current salary scale and how they want to go about getting that simplified. And then also we would like a presentation on the Title IX update, requesting the funds that are needed, the source of funding, and how to balance the projects. Also at the Citizens Advisory Committee, we did have a few people comment on our report there, talking about, I think they're on the Facilities Committee, and they were discussing the wish list of the schools the principals have. And we did make them aware that the administration is aware of all these requests and wishes, but funding, of course, is an issue. We do have a timeline for projects, but sometimes you have to balance the prioritizing the needs according to the funding. We will have another meeting after our next board meeting. Financial reports are given, and that will be announced later.
Okay.
That concludes our report.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Gray. Next is our Policy Committee, Mr. Alston.
Yes, ma'am. As a reminder, at least once every 3 years, the district will evaluate compliance with the wellness policy to assess the implementation of the policy and include the extent to which schools under the jurisdiction of the district are in compliance with the wellness policy, the extent to which the district's wellness policy compares to the Alliance for a Healthier Generations model wellness policy, and a description of the progress made in obtaining the goals of the district's wellness policy. This policy was presented to and approved for first reading by the Board of Trustees on January 24th, 2022. Second reading is scheduled for this meeting under action required. The Policy Committee will continue review of Policy ACB, Educational Equity, and Sample Policy ACA and ACA-R Equity. Policy KLGA, School Resource Officers. Policy KLG, Relations with Law Enforcement Authorities. Discussion or update of the Open Carry with Training Act as it relates to facilities usage for church services. The Policy Committee will begin review of the following policies at a future meeting as well. Policy GCC, Professional Staff Leaves and Absences, and Policy GDC, Support Staff Leaves and Absences. Policy GCG, Part-Time and Substitute Professional Staff Employment, and the attendance policies. And the Policy Committee will begin looking at dates so that we can have another Policy Committee meeting in the near future. That concludes our report for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alston. All right, we are now down to the Transportation Study Ad Hoc Committee. Dr. Baker.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. We do not have a committee report as such. I will yield to Mr. Cropper when he gives our board update.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So now we're down to the Sumter Realignment update, Dr. Baker.
This is Mr. Cropper, and we have him. Amy?
Yes, he's present.
Okay, all right, Mr. Cropper.
Hi, Dr. Baker, Dr. Jackson, members of the board, Dr. Mark Knox, thank you all for the opportunity to give you an update this evening. I am here just to give you an update on our progress and give you a preview on where we're at and where we're going next. We met with the committee. It was, we met with the committee last on the 27th of January, so a couple of weeks ago. And at that committee meeting, we brought back all four options, and the objective of that meeting was to determine, to try to take two options to the next public information session, which is next Tuesday. After working with the committee, it was determined to take options 3 and 4, and to take options 1B and 2B off of the table for consideration, although they're still there for components that could be used. The plan is to take options 3 and 4 to the public next week at the series of public information sessions. We have public information sessions starting on Tuesday and going all the way Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Thursday night. And Tuesday night's meeting is at Crestwood High School starting at 6 p.m. Wednesday's at Lakewood at 6 p.m. And then Thursday, is February 24th, is at Sumter High School at 6 p.m. Our goal for that particular public info session is to follow the same agenda that we followed as our first round of public information meetings, to share these options with the public, and give them an idea on the work that's been done and how we led up to these two options, and then to invite them to talk with us, consultants and committee and board around the maps, and just to share some thoughts and conversations. The last meeting that we had in December, public information session, was very useful in having those conversations with all the various stakeholders around the maps, and we look forward to having those again next week at our next round of community meetings.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cropper. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
There was some discussion at the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I just wanted for clarification, and maybe for Dr. Martinox or someone from the administration to help me with this as well.
Is this for Mr. Cropper?
Yeah, it's pertaining to the realignment study. At the Citizen Advisory, it was this concern was brought up that the equity study or the equity policy worked in tandem with the realignment. And just for clarification, the equity policy and the realignment are two separate items, or two separate items for business before the board at this time. But the realignment study does touch on equity a bit with two of our areas of criteria that we use for the realignment study. The balance of school facility utilization makes every effort to have equitable utilization where possible across the district and in accordance with school capacities, and funded allotment ratios in accordance with state law. Make efficient use of available space. And the one that I think that really touches on equity is the account for economic, cultural, and ethnic diversity to ensure that schools are inclusionary and not adversely affected by the realignment decision. But I just wanted to stress that they are two separate studies or two separate pieces of business before the board, and that one does not necessarily dictate the other. And I just wanted to open the door for Dr. Martinox or someone from the administration to touch on how does equity look when it comes to the school and school district.
So you're exactly right in terms of the work. There are two different practices or two different approaches to the work to ensure that we're educating all of our children. When we're looking at equity and the equity work, equity is about the practices that occur throughout the district that impact how our children are learning, how we're meeting their varying needs, but it is not dictated by the boundaries. that is something that we should be doing. And something you always hear me say is a child's zip code, or child's socioeconomic diversity, or child's ethnic diversity, or gender, or religion. None of those factors should be impacted when it's time for a child to learn. It's most important that we put those equitable practices in place to ensure, because there's a difference between equity and equality, right? Equality is making sure everybody has the same thing. Equity is about making sure we're meeting individual needs. So it's most important that we look at the components that you talked about that are impacted by our transportation ad hoc committee, but it does not impact the process that we're taking with the equity, with the transportation, if that makes sense.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to clarification because it did come up as citizen advisory, and for clarification for the general public as well. Thank you.
Very good point. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Martin. Okay, anything else? If not, thank you, Mr. Cropper, and we do appreciate your update, and we look forward to seeing you in the very, very near future.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Okay. The board is now ready to welcome the South Carolina School Board Association Executive Director, Mr. Scott Price, and the Executive Assistant and Superintendent Search Coordinator, Ms. Judy LeGrand, and the Superintendent Search Consultant, Dr. Jean Moore. They will provide an update on the superintendent search. Mr. Price?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and once again, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be here this evening and meet with you and bring you up to date on our activities so far. I had a very busy week this past week, with a number of focus groups, and I know that Dr. Moore and Judy spent at least 3 days of last week within the district meeting with almost 150 people over I think a span of like 28 meetings. And so we want an opportunity to come meet with you all this evening and just sort of give you a report on what we found from our focus groups and from our meetings from this past week. Again, related to the characteristics of the next superintendent that we're going to see and share with you. So at this time, we're going to let you walk you all through that. And we've got copies for the members of the board.
All for allowing us to be here tonight to bring a report. You have the document before you. It starts with a report on the focus group meetings, and then it concludes with the online survey. But we were here last week, 3 days, the 8th, 9th, and 10th. The purpose of those meetings, what we did, we presented a primary question to each group or each individual that we met with. It's what are the characteristics, experiences, and qualities that the Sumter School Board should look for in the recruitment, screening, and selection for the next superintendent. And basically what we did, we met, we gathered information on that question. You'll see on page 3, I gave a breakdown of the meetings. We met with the individual board members, we met with city council members and the mayor. We met with some representatives for city administration. We met with representatives from Teacher Forum. We met with a group of realtors. Then we met with district directors, coordinators, the chamber board and their education committee, district support staff. Then we had a meeting with maintenance, transportation, and food service. We met with a group of students, the student advisory committee, and I have to say that was probably the most fun group. it was fun to interact with them. I think we're keeping them away from doing homework, so they were having fun. Then last week we had 3 evening focus groups. We met at Crestwood, Lakewood, and Sumter High. We did not have a large turnout at any of those, but we did have some community members to come out. Dr. Moore met with the Concerned Clergy and Ministerial Association. He met with the Education Foundation, the executive staff, principals and assistant principals, and a representative from the Sheriff's Department. He met with the base commander, and he met with district support staff. So in total, there were 28 meetings, and it was approximately 145 participants. Over the next few pages, you will see, as I said, we posed the question, we gave them an overview of the search process, and then we posed that question, and then we just took notes. So pages 4 through 13 are those comments that we received in those meetings. I'm not going to sit here and read those to you. A lot of good feedback, but I will let you read those after the meeting. On page 14, it begins the information from the online survey. And I will say right now we've had 223 people to take the survey. The survey will remain open until March 1st. So when we come to bring pool candidates, we will bring you the rest of the survey, but we did want to bring a report tonight from the focus group meetings and what we've gathered so far from the online survey. You had 224 people, or 223, 224 to take the survey. The majority of those were parents and teachers. The first question, or the first question that they had to rank items, they had to list them in order of importance, and you will see that these are specific areas of expertise. And budget development and management was number 1, then human resource management, then curriculum development and evaluation, public relations, facilities management, and then proficient and use of technology came in last in that grouping. The next question asked them to rank specific experiences. And again, this list is a little bit longer. Number 1 was recognizes, values, and affirms staff members. And those continue on page 15. Again, I won't read each one to you. But number 1 was valuing and affirming staff members. Number 2, exceedingly responsive. Ability to develop and direct an effective management team. Overarching love of kids, maintain visibility and accessibility. Those were your top 4. Or 5, actually. Then the next question just asked this group, in choosing the next superintendent, which path or strategy, I can't talk today, do you think the board should take? And 104 people out of the 224 responded that the board should find a very different kind of candidate, one who is ready to take the district in a significantly different direction. Then the next, from page 15 to 21, these are the comments that were submitted online with the survey. And again, I won't read them to you, but I do encourage you to read them. And then we'll open it up if you have any questions.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I do have a question.
Sure.
And I want to ask the search firm, why are we just receiving this particular document tonight? Because this is a whole lot for us to read through and then ask you questions and we're just seeing this information on tonight.
I think it's best not to email things, because if we emailed it, it would be open to the public. I wanted you to get it first. After tonight, after you read it, when you release it, it's a public document, but it's your document first.
What we talking right now?
And if it pleases the board, we'd be more than happy to come back and have another meeting and talk to you about the, particular questions related to it.
I'm sure I will have questions, but this is 20 pages, and I'm not sure we have enough time to review all of this. I'm reading this many comments, and you said that we had 222 people to participate?
224.
24?
Mm-hmm. If you'll look on the page
14?
It gives you a breakdown. There were 222 people who told you which group they belonged to, and then 2 people chose not to tell you which group, so it was a total of 224.
Madam Chair.
Just a moment, I'll let him find out. Mr. Reagan, Dr. Reagan, are you finished?
For now, yes, ma'am. You can move to the next person.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Alston?
Mr. Grant, is this document inclusive of every comment that was left on the survey? Or were comments removed from this document?
Madam Chair, Mr. Alston, we included comments in this document that were responsive to the question that was asked. So there were not every comment, and this is typical when we do focus group work and when we do survey work. You get comments that are all over the place. And our job, that you all asked us to do, was to bring to you comments reflecting characteristics of the next superintendent. That's what this document includes.
Well, I take issue with comments being deleted or omitted from this document.
Right.
Because if the community gave input, and this board asked for community input, then every comment that the community left should be left to this board to decipher through.
Amen.
It's problematic when you say that we're looking for characteristics, but what if the community left comments that said they're looking for characteristics of that of the current superintendent? If we're looking for community input, we have to stop picking and choosing what comments we want to support. We can't make a sound decision as a body if we don't have all the comments that were left. And I think that it's a waste of taxpayer dollars, and I think someone said it earlier. The district is always asking for taxpayer dollars to do more with the district. We only received 224, I think you said, survey results. Only 145 people participated in the focus group. Yet you have an online petition to keep the current superintendent that has almost 800 signatures on it. So this board can't sit here and say we want community input when we're not listening to the community, because the community is speaking and the community is telling us what they want. So how do we justify paying $15,000 for a document that's not inclusive of every comment of this community? Just because it doesn't fit the narrative of this board, and I'm gonna say of this board, that I'm a member of this body, because it's been quoted in the item several times that this is a search of the board, because this is not a search of the community. Because the community voice is constantly being ignored and silenced to fit the narrative that this board wants to push about the need for a new superintendent. And I have problems with omission of actual comments from the community. Members of the community have called me personally to tell me of their comments that they're left. And I looked through this document. And yes, Mr. Reagan, it is 20 pages. But I can promise you that all the comments aren't here.
No, I know it's not. I know it's not.
So how do we say that we're looking for community input when we're not looking for community input? We're only looking for the characteristics because the board said we wanted characteristics. The characteristics could be shared by the current administration, but we wouldn't know that because it's not in this document.
Actually, it is, Mr. Austin, because the questions that I asked people, when they would answer a response like that, I would ask them what specific characteristics of the current administration, for example. That's included in there.
But we wouldn't know that because the voice of the community. But we wouldn't know this because this is characteristics of a new superintendent. So if someone left at the end of that survey result, we want the same characteristics that Dr. Martin Knox has. Those comments are not reflective in this document.
What the characteristics are.
How do I know that that's the characteristics of Dr. Martin Knox or if that's the characteristics of the next person?
There are characteristics that were said and what's that reflected in that document.
Madam Chair, that concludes my statement. Thank you.
Madam Chair? Yes. I want to know whether or not we'll be able to see the omitted comments that were left out of this document.
Mr. Price, do you have access to those, if any of them are listed? I think you said, you may have, picked some of them. Was there any of the comments left out, of the document?
We can provide the board with a copy of all the comments that were received, even if the comments were not responsive to the question that were asked.
Did you do that?
We can do that.
Mr. Reagan, you will provide those to us. And approximately how much time do you get that to us? Approximately how much time do you need to get back with us on that?
We can get back with you on that tomorrow.
Okay. Do you want it to be sent to Amy and Amy send it to us?
However, as long as we get it, yes, ma'am.
All right, maybe what you can do is email it to Amy or.
We can email it to, I can email it directly to you,
Okay.
if you wish.
Okay. Well, do you want to just, I think you have all of our email addresses, don't you? Do you want to just email it to each one of us?
However you want me to do it.
Okay, not as a group email, but would you send it to all of us and send Amy as well?
Individually?
Yeah, because, we don't like to do group email. We don't do group email. Okay? All right, thank you. Any other, questions or anything else to share with us from the community, from the team, Mr. 13?
We're good, we're still on schedule.
All right, okay, well, thank you so much. We do appreciate you, and we will look forward to that. The remainder of the time. Drive safely and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night.
Okay, trustees, I want to take a moment, and update you on the meeting with the Show Air Force Base, Commander Colonel Mark Sullivan. The results of the meeting included the commander's recommendation that the military representative to the board remain the position of the deputy director for installation support, as this position is least likely to be transferred or called for military duty. And it would allow the position to remain with the board for a longer time than perhaps an active duty position. Mrs. Mills was able to serve our military representative for approximately 3 years, and the draft letter that you received reflects the additions of equivalent to an active duty high-ranking non-commissioned officer or a field grade officer. Sullivan described Ms. Miller's civilian position as equivalent to that of a field grade officer. And if there are any comments that you may share with them now, you know, we can discuss it now or later on. But what he said that I think that she was equivalent to a lieutenant colonel as far as her grade was concerned. And he was saying that that position was once filled by an active duty person. However, the way that it's written now is that position is filled by a person who fills that job on the base as Deputy Director for Installation Support. And that person is now a non-military person. So he would like to continue having that person that comes in as Deputy Director for Installation Support serve as the representative for the base on our Board of Trustees. Do you have any comments or any item of discussion as it pertains to this at this time? Any no comments? All right. Well, if you don't have anything right now, during the action required in that section, if you have comments or questions, you can do so at that time. I also received a request to discuss our board meeting practices, and in particular, to cease using the language at the start of the meeting that seating is limited on a first come, first served basis. If we've opened our meetings to the public, and you'll have an opportunity to vote on this matter later in the meeting. However, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to share them now or during the discussion placed under the action required.
Madam Chair.
I think Mr. Alston was the one who brought this up and called it to the attention.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Alston.
The discussion that I would like to have regarding board meeting practices is that there's serious inequities when you say that there is limited first come, first served seating. When we're at the district office, there's probably room for 20 chairs. We're here at Millwood, and there's room for approximately 100 people. So we can't say it's on a first come, first served basis when, based on the locations that we're holding meetings. The second thing is, we've opened our meetings to the public. Our schools are open 5 days a week for face-to-face instruction. So why can't the public have unlimited access to our board meetings? I've only been a member of this board since 2018, and one of the first things that I asked once I received a copy of the meeting calendar, was why are there only certain schools that we hold board meetings? Yes, I know that a year and a half into my tenure being on the board, that we were impacted by COVID and meetings went virtual, and then we had limited public, face-to-face interaction with the public in our meetings. But now here we are, where our schools are face-to-face. We've opened our meetings to the public. And since I have been a member of this board, Dr. McGaney, you would appreciate this, and Mr. McLeod, you would appreciate this as well. This board has never, and I reiterate, never held its meetings in the most rural and underserved areas of this county. The farthest that we have gone out into the county to hold meetings has been Hillcrest Middle School, Oakland Primary, Croswell Drive, Elementary School, Furman Middle School, and Willow Drive. We have never touched the farthest reaches of this county. We've never touched the Rimmer Rapton Creek community. We've never touched the Pinewood community in Manchester, and we've never touched the R.E. Davis, Maywood, and Shiloh areas and St. John areas of this county to hold our meetings. So I asked the question of this body, how can we see the inequities of this system within this county in order to fix them if we never hold our meetings in the very place where the issues reside? There's no way possible that you can lead from behind this dais without actually taking the meetings into the schools in which are educating our kids and into the communities that's producing our students. And the question was said that every year there's a rotation of schools. And since I have been a member of this body, there has not been a rotation of schools, except select schools in this county. And that's problematic. So my hope and belief tonight is that when we leave here, that our meetings will be open to the public for unlimited seating, and that we will start to see our board meetings travel around the county to reach the people that we're serving.
Matt? I echo the sentiments of Mr. Austin. I'm really shocked to see board meeting practices on here because back in December, I raised this very same issue here about limited seating at the district office. And I made it clear we need to have our board meetings out where the public can attend. And I said because there were issues at one of our high schools, we can start having our board meetings at the high school. And I was met with resistance from a few of my colleagues. But now, the very same issue that's on here now, board meeting practice is being addressed now that I brought up back in December, and even brought up the fact that there were just few chairs in our district office. Let's go out to the high schools so the public can come. But I was met with resistance. Met with resistance. So this is not the first time. I mean, it's on here now, but this issue has been brought up by me, myself, 2 months ago. You know, because I made it clear, county council has opened up this meeting to the public. City council, why is the Sumter School District has not opened up its meeting to the public? Let them see what's going on. Let's take it to the high school. But instead, all of our other committees have gone out to the high school. And yet, the community is now saying, why can't we have our board meetings at high schools? It's here tonight, kudos. But when I saw this, I wasn't going to say anything until Mr. Austin said what he said. So I want my voice to be heard that this is not the first time this issue has been brought up. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Dr. Hilton.
I do remember when Reverend Dr. McGee brought all this up. It was met with resistance.
Thank you.
Yes, and I concur with Mr. Austin that we do need to start holding our meetings in places where more people can come. And if we don't want to have any more meetings at the district office at all, that's okay with me. We can meet in the school every time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Hilton. Okay, the thing I do recall it was mentioned that I think that we were still under trying to work with the masks and all of that at that time. And the mask mandate was still out there, and we hadn't really just opened up everything. But I'm sure that with the COVID getting under control, we can do more of going out and going to the school. And, you know, I do recall Mr. Austin mentioned, since he's been on the board, right after he joined the board, COVID came in. And I do remember going to some of the schools other than the ones that we've gone to in the last almost 4 years. But almost 3 years of our time, we have been combating and fighting COVID. And so I'm sure that things will open up and we can do a better job of being out in the district, throughout the district. So thank you so much to each of you for your remembrance and your input on that. Did I see your hand now?
Yes, ma'am. While we're on that, and the meetings, we also look into what Mr. Ben and Haley asked a while ago about doing away with these, since other places, anywhere anybody else goes, it's optional. We revisit that again.
We can, talk about that. So, that's not on the agenda, the mask, maybe we can put that on there and talk about that. All right, okay. We're now down to the superintendent's report. Dr. Martinez, please proceed with the items listed under this section.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Chairwoman Jackson, Vice Chairman Dr. Baker, members of the Sumter School District Board, and members of the Sumter School District community. First, let me preface by saying Happy Valentine's Day. It's nice to spend my evening with you all. I thought we were going to bring dinner and some filet mignon, but I guess we just have to settle for just being with one another this evening. And so as we begin, I want to preface with just saying, dovetailing on something that Mr. Alston shared earlier, because this month we celebrate Love the Bus Month. And so while we always recognize our staff, we can always improve in our practice. And so we're celebrating Love the Bus, a month-long celebration held every February by the American School Bus Council. This celebration highlights the important role of the yellow school bus in education, with particular focus on thanking school bus drivers for safely transporting children to and from school each and every day. We are proud of the outstanding job our bus drivers do for our children and for the school district. As a way of thanking our school bus drivers statewide for their commitment to keeping students safe, February the 14th through the 18th has been designated as School Bus Driver Appreciation Week in South Carolina. And I don't know if many of you have recognized our bus drivers have been working double and triple time, just ensuring that they safely transport our children. And not only do our drivers transport our children to and from school, many of them serve in the schoolhouse as well, providing academic support while also serving as role models. So if you have not done so, please take the opportunity to thank a bus driver. They do more than just drive the buses. They are responsible for our most prized possessions. And if it were not for their hard work, we wouldn't have children in the schoolhouses. If you look at the national average right now, most school districts are short drivers. And so that's why they're pulling double and triple routes, just making sure that they do the best that they can to serve our children. So thank you to our bus drivers for your dedicated service to our children. For pre-kindergarten and kindergarten registration, Sumter School District is currently holding pre-kindergarten and kindergarten registration for the 2022-2023 school year. To register, we're asking our parents to stop by the school for which their child is zoned to attend. An online registration link is also on our website. And for more information, you can call the Early Childhood Education Director, Ms. Cheryl Ray Creel, at 803-774-5500, extension 118, and I'll repeat that number again, 803-774-5500, extension 118. If there are parents who have youngsters who are ready for pre-kindergarten and kindergarten and they're not on this participating, please let them know that this is the time for us to begin to register our children. We look forward to welcoming our youngest learners to the Sumter School District family. National Board Certification Renewals. So congratulations to Ms. Laura Lyles and Ms. Ashley Bryant from Alice Drive Elementary School, Ms. Ann LeGrand from Wilder Elementary School, and Dr. Jonelle Atkins from Kingsbury Elementary School for successfully renewing National Board Certification. If you're not on social media, you would not have seen the posts where we recognize our staff. So please recognize and like and share those posts, because this is a truly, truly remarkable work of our teachers, and it's an outstanding accomplishment. Library Paraprofessional of the Year Award. Well, Ms. Alice Bailey Norris, Library Media Assistant at Sumter High School, has been awarded the South Carolina Association of School Librarians for the 2021-2022 Library Paraprofessional of the Year Award. This outstanding honor recognizes the exemplary performance of paraprofessionals who directly support the library media profession. The association will present Alice with this award on March the 10th, 2022 at the annual SCASL conference. And so that was a mouthful. And so congratulations again to you, Ms. Bailey, for your hard work and your efforts and making sure that you continue to grow yourself so that you can better impact our children. And finally, I'd like to just say kudos. Kudos to Ms. Dana Williams actually she works at Bates, but she also works for us at Sumter High. Saturday, I had the opportunity to attend the pageant at Sumter High School. And when I tell you our students showed their beauty, poise, and intellect and talent, it was an amazing evening. And I want to say congratulations to Ms. Tori Chapman, who won the Miss Sumter High for the 2022 school year. Our students were absolutely amazing, but I also want to recognize a couple of our other students. So Miss Senior is Miss Emily Bailey, with the first runner-up is Miss Hope Blackman. Miss Junior is Miss Carrington Pinckney. The first runner-up is Miss Madison Moore. Miss Sophomore is Miss Claire Sutherland. The first runner-up was Gabrielle Miller. And Miss Freshman was Anna Luzzi, with the first runner-up as Lindsay Palmo. I also want to thank our ROTC, our men's choir, our dancers, the community, just for participating in Saturday night's event. And I will tell you that it was better than a red carpet event in Hollywood. And so I will conclude by saying, Happy Valentine's Day again. This is a gift that I received from my staff. This is the diamond that they gave me today, and they show their love with the cupcake that accompanied it. This was less calories than the cupcake, and that concludes the superintendent's report at this time. Moving to 5.2, I will ask Dr. Jada McLeod to go ahead and move through 5.2, 5.3, and 5.4, which are all from the Office of Academics. The first is the homeschool report. The second is the textbook special adoption for ELA K-5. And the final point is the annual Title I presentation that we often share information with, and that will be in conjunction with Dr. Perry Mills. So Dr. McLeod, at this time, please.
Good evening. Does everyone hear me? Is the sound okay?
Yes.
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 Good evening, Chairwoman Dr. Jackson, Vice Chairman Dr. Baker, Clerk Reverend Dr. McGaney, Superintendent Dr. Martin Knox, and Sumter School District Board of Trustees. First tonight, I present for your information the 2021-2022 South Carolina Homeschool Enrollment Report. This is due around this time every year to the State Department. Within board docs, you have the information. Option 1, that is the district approved students. We have currently this year 5 students participating in that. Option 2, you have the South Carolina Association of Independent Homeschools, and currently there are 17 students participating in that. And then option 3 are the other associations for homeschools. They have to be at least 50 in membership to participate. And we currently have 550 students in that program. So for your reference, previous years, if you look back to the 2016-17 school year, the homeschool enrollment was 409 students. During the 2017-18 school year, the enrollment was 441 students. During the 2019 school year, the enrollment was 423 students. During the 2019-20, it moved to 440 students. The 2020-21, we were at 640 homeschooled students. And currently this year, for the 2021-22 school year, we have 572 students. So if you have any questions concerning the South Carolina Homeschool Enrollment Report at this time, I will try to answer those for you.
Any questions about the cloud? It appears that there aren't any questions, Dr. McLeod. You may proceed.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, this evening, I have with me from the Office of Academics, Christine Carnes. She serves as the elementary English language arts specialist, and she's tasked with organizing the 2022 special textbook and resources adoption and the related professional development for that. We received earlier this year concerning the special 2022 English Language Arts textbook adoption. The South Carolina Department of Education approved and provided special funding to support literacy in Palmetto Literacy Project schools. Provisos 1.60 and 1A.53 of the 2021-22 state budget direct the South Carolina Department of Education to provide literacy support to Palmetto Literacy Project schools, including professional development and curriculum resources. The Literacy Project schools were those that had 1/3 or more of the third grade students scoring at does not meet on the South Carolina Ready English Language Arts test, either in 2017-18 school year or the 2018-19 school year. Currently, Sumter School District has 9 elementary schools participating in the Palmetto Literacy Project. The State Department requested materials from publishers in the areas of kindergarten through 5th grade literacy, specifically those addressing the science of reading. A review team of district and state leaders evaluated the submitted information on September 29th through October 1st and selected 5 curriculum. The Office of Early Learning and Literacy hosted a showcase of that approved curriculum on November 29th, November 30th, and December 1st of 2021 at the South Carolina Archives and History Auditorium for school and district attendees. And almost all of us chose to go at the same time. So we had a large representative of Team Sumter at this training and this overview. So the South Carolina Department of Education will provide one of the 5 approved kindergarten through 5th grade based curriculum at no cost to the Palmetto Literacy Project schools. Samples of all 5 approved curriculum were sent to all schools. Literacy teachers and district staff had an opportunity to review and make recommendations following our normal textbooks adoption procedures. And after reviewing and rating all materials, SAVAS, My View Literacy, has been recommended for adoption upon approval of the Sumter School District Board of Trustees. Do you have any questions concerning the curriculum that is being proposed? That's why I have Ms. Carnes, because she and the schools have worked tirelessly to review these materials.
Madam Chair, I don't have in-depth question, but I do want to know if they could provide the list of those 9 schools that she mentioned that falls under the PLP.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
He wants to know whether or not you can provide a list of the 9 schools that falls under the PLC.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions?
She's gonna provide at a later time?
Yeah, I'll provide it to Dr. Martin Knox to share.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. McLeod. Any other questions? All right, you may move on, Dr. McLeod.
Yes, ma'am. Finally, this evening, Dr. Karen Mills, Director of Public Programs, will be co-presenting this year's Title I overview with me. And Dr. Mills will be sharing his screen.
Just a minute. Make sure I put it up first. All right. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, sir. So, as I stated, Dr. Mills is going to be co-presenting with me. We are glad to have him on board as Director of Federal Programs, and he and his team have been working tirelessly to, that word's giving me a problem too. They have been working very hard to catch up with our time that we were without a director, and to help the schools move forward and help our students. Because you'll notice in the first slide that the purpose of Title I is to provide financial assistance to students in low-income families to help meet the challenging state academic standards. This began in 1965. We've had 2 reauthorizations since that time. Title I was the first title program and continues to be the largest federal aid program for K through 12 public schools.
And good evening, everyone. Protocol having been established, I am pleased to be here as a part of the Sumter School District team, serving as your Director of Federal Programs. And as Dr. McLeod just stated, the purpose of Title I wanted to dive into some of the allocations just as a point of reference. At the very top of the slide, you'll notice that this is the allocations that the state of South Carolina get for Title I alone, which is over $269 million. And from left to right, you will see where the money is distributed throughout the state for different things. But the most important one is to the far right, the Title I Part A allocation that goes to the LEAs, which is us as school districts. In the middle of this slide, you'll notice here we have Sumter School District allocation for 21-22. This year, we were allocated $6,955,013.41. That is about $78,000 less than last year, and most of that is based on enrollment. The blue boxes to the left, go from my left to my right, wanted to break down the allocations of the $6,955,000. The allocation to serve the schools, 16 schools that we're serving, $5,924,000 goes directly to the schools. The middle box, you'll see the LEA set-asides. In our LEA set-asides, there are some required and some optional things that we must do with the allocations that we receive each year. Required allocations total $118,793, and I'll share in the next slide or two how that is broken down. Then we have our optional allocation for LEA set-aside, and that totals $617,911, and I also will explain that a little later. Our indirect cost is approximately 4.22% of the total allocation, and that $293,856,000 goes to the district finance office. If you look at those two blocks, the $5.9 million and the 1.03, that totals the $6,955,000 that we have in our allocations for this school year. The required that I mentioned earlier, the parent and family engagement, before we can distribute any money to any school or do anything, 1% of our funds must be taken off the top to support parent and family engagement. The other required LEA set aside will be our homeless education to ensure that we are able to and are in fact taking care of our homeless students in the Sumter area. Some of our optional, let me go back, I'm sorry. The parent and family engagement, I'll share a little bit more about that, but there are some things that we're trying to do to increase and enhance the family engagement. One in particular, we recently held piloting with Croswell Drive Elementary School, a program called Family Engagement on Demand. FEOD was the acronym. They had their first training recently, and it seems to be a success. That is a way for us to reach our families virtually in the middle of the pandemic. We don't want to just not have a chance to meet them face to face as we slowly get back into face-to-face opportunities. But while we're still getting there, I wanted to make sure that the district could look at a way we can still engage our parents. Some of our optional LEA set-asides include the employment of Title I program staff. That will be myself as well as my staff that helps me to run the program, professional development for our Title I staff. And I have et cetera there because if someone outside of Title I wants to go to a conference, one of the things that we ask them to do is to be able to present at that conference, showing their skill set in support of Title I in our district. And that also will allow them to not only participate, but bring that information they learned back to us. The third one is professional development supplies, administrative supplies, and then there's district-wide programs. And I'm not sure if Dr. McLeod wanted to elaborate a little bit more on the district-wide programs, or if she want me to continue with that.
Thank you. Just a few, and it's always based on our comprehensive needs assessment. Pre-COVID, we were hosting summer STEM camps. Recent one to improve family and community engagement was our trunk or treat that was very positive, and we look forward to expanding that this coming year. The students, in addition to goodies, they got books to take home and materials for instruction.
I wanted to add this quote in. This quote was very meaningful to me. I served as a high school economics teacher when I first started teaching upon my retirement from the military. And since we're talking about money and the large amount that I just mentioned, over $6.9 million, I like to remind myself and my staff, as well as the schools that I support, that money is a great servant to us, but a bad master. And what I just try to share with them is that the money is great for us to move our schools, move our students, but we have to be very creative and strategic in how we spend the money and not let it start to take over us. So I just wanted to add that quote in there. I have to live by that quote in my home as well. The next slide talks about the distribution of our funds, and as it says on the slide, it is not as easy as 1, 2, 3. Looking to the far right, the top box shows qualifications are based on poverty percentage in each school. We do have a lot of schools, more so than those that we serve, that meet that poverty index. However, a school, LEA, and superintendent has the option to choose what schools they plan to serve. And what Sumter has done prior to my being here, and what we continue to do, is try to serve our students at the lowest level, meaning our elementary school students. And so most of our funding and support is based on the poverty, but also based on a grade span, which is an option that the LEA can and has chosen. The middle box talks about the allocation based on ranking of schools by percentage. This is when I had to pull out the calculator and start to look, because we had 6 or 7 schools that all had 100% poverty. What I had to do with that is use the multiplier of 1.6 that we have to do with our schools that are direct certified for support. And one school, for example, our number one school, even though they were 100% like some of the others, when I rounded off, they were 1.22. Our second school was 1.16. Third school, 1.14, so on and so forth. So I had to break down the 100% schools by the greatest tenth of the decimal. I'm sorry, 100 of the decimal to identify who would be first, second, third, and fourth. And then at the bottom, the calculation used is based on 135-day average daily membership report that we get from food service. Ms. Stacy Francis, I do believe, she says that to me, and that's when I start the ball rolling in regards to identifying the poverty level, the number of students from the list that she shares with me, the multiplier to come up with the amount that each student, or each school, I'm sorry, will be getting.
We do try to keep the big picture in front of us and what the intent is. And Title I funding is intended to assist in continuous improvement and success of students, despite the socioeconomic status, their zip code, that kind of thing. It's continuous improvement and leveling the playing field for all of our students to be able to succeed.
This slide shares a little bit about our Title I project timeline. When I came into the position, it was March 1st last year, so I am approaching my 1-year anniversary with the district. And so this timeline was very important to me to learn on the end, and as I started planning over the summer. If you look at the far left, December to February, where we are now, principals are conducting comprehensive needs assessment for their school-wide plans. And I'm going to share a little bit more in the next slide or two about the comprehensive needs assessments and the importance of those. But as you look at the timeline, the schools are aware of this, they know what is due to me and when. The comprehensive needs assessment is due to my office February 28th. I've sent the principals at the Title I schools an email letting them know that I am willing to participate. As a part of the stakeholder involvement, they're required to have staff, parents, community, and someone from the district office. That district person does not have to be me, but I am willing and I have volunteered to share with them. One of the things that I did just 2 weeks ago, after attending a comprehensive needs assessment workshop, I was able to come back and I did a virtual meeting with all of the schools that we serve to give them the same information I have in regards to creating this comprehensive needs assessment. But again, going left to right, you'll see the different times that they have certain things that's due to me. The ultimate time frame is that I am to get their plans, which encompasses the district plan, to the State Department by July 1st. One of the things that happened this past year, July 1st, plans were put in. There was a lot of changes in the State Department that caused us to have I'll say a significant delay in funds. But one of the things that we had to wait on is our GANs, our grant authorization notice, to be signed by the state superintendent and sent to us before monies were available. When I mentioned the comprehensive needs assessment, you'll see the acronym CNA. CNA is key. 2 bullets that they highlighted to us on a regular basis with our CNA is that school-wide activities must tie back to the CNA. And the second one is do not include any activity or expenditure if the school cannot demonstrate it as a need. So the far right-hand side, the big red circles, I have the largest circle that emphasizes the comprehensive needs assessment. That comprehensive needs assessment I share with the principal needs to be as large as the campus, from the receptionist desk to the last tree on the playground, because those are the needs in your building, whether it's discipline, attendance, academics, or even the front office reception, the climate and the culture of that school. And so I share with them, think of your comprehensive needs assessment where money is not an issue. However, when we do get to the school-wide plan, which has to come from the comprehensive needs assessment, that's when we have to tie it down to $1. If the school is authorized $350,000 for the year, the school-wide plan should identify that money to spend $350,000. The comprehensive needs assessment allows us to, for example, we've had a couple of situations where we had staff hired through Title I funds, but they never filled the position. In the absence of filling that position, the salary that that person would have gotten still sits there. So now, let's say that person was to receive $2,000 a month. In 5 months, we have $10,000 that were not spent. So now what we want to do is do an amendment. I can only amend a plan if the need is shown in the comprehensive needs assessment, which is why I'm stressing the CNA for our schools. And I'm sorry that I'm belaboring that, but it's just that important to all of us that the CNAs are done and they're done right. Once our CNAs are done, obviously the goal is to go ahead and create the plan at the school level. I will get them in, evaluate them, create the district plan. We want to put these things into action and implement them with fidelity. And then, of course, the outcome and the overall goal is success of our schools, our students, and our district. This is one tool that I've found since I've been here. It's not anything that's new, but it's something that's going to help us govern where we are with our funds. It's titled Claiming Criteria. This is also known as what we call a spend down calendar. And what that means, if you notice at the top left, this is for Title 1, 2, 4, and 5, and I'm going to focus on Title 1. The claiming percentage is basically when my budget analyst has to make sure that everything from year 1, quarter 2 that has been purchased or allocated has been claimed through finance and the normal procedures. We're asking that 40% of that money, of that allocation that school gets, is spent within that the second quarter of year one. If you go to the right, third quarter, same year, 60%. At the end of that year, fourth quarter, April to June 30th, will be 85%. One of the things that I shared with schools that they were not totally aware of is that this grant money is a 2-year grant. So that money does not come back to the Title I or the Federal Programs Office on June 30th. That money goes into year 2. So if you see at the bottom, year 2, quarter 1, July to September, that's 85% of that money that they have spent by then, so which means they have 15% of their money left. This is also during the time, as you remember, July 1st, I have to submit the application. This is the time that we're pending approval of our plan. So while we're pending approval, the school still has 15% of their allocations. So I'm asking principals to make sure that they're spending accordingly so that they don't spend out in year 2 while we're waiting for new monies to be allocated, or approved, I should say. Also, as a part of this, I've asked my budget analysts to be hands-on with our bookkeepers at the school. If they go to a particular quarter and they're way behind or a little far ahead, ask them to kind of monitor their spending. We're going to monitor it because we do have access to it, just to kind of support them and help them out. Once we get down to year 2, quarter 3, where 95% of the money should be spent, and we see where a school has not spent a significant part of the money, that's when we need to have a conversation on how do we pull that money back into the district and spend it on a district project or a district program before losing. My goal is not to send a dime back to the State Department.
Really?
This slide, if you all, I'm sure, are aware of, especially to the left-hand side, we can be overwhelmed with paperwork, and we do have a lot of files that's fairly old. The requirement from the State Department is to have 5 years of files on hand, current year and the previous 4 years. So the picture to the right shows how we're doing things now. We're going from the Title I crates. I remember when I first came in, I had different schools literally bringing me milk crates full of documents. And I was thinking, okay, where am I going to keep all of these documents? And so what we've started to do, and we're not the only district that does it, not the first district that's done this, but to be more organized and streamline the process, we have a Google Drive. Every school has a folder. There's a monthly school leadership calendar where certain documents are required to be uploaded each month. So I ask principals, their Title I contacts at their schools to ensure that these documents are uploaded on a monthly basis, because what we don't want to happen is we get into May and it's testing and it's springtime and we're scrambling for documents. So there's certain documents I ask them to upload on a monthly basis to ensure that we're not fighting for documents at the end, looking for them when the year's about over. This has been working out fairly great with us. We currently have 2 years in Google Drive. So the next 3 years, the picture to the left should be a thing of the past, and we should be looking to the right. And I will add that Dr. McLeod and I have participated, I think, in 1, maybe 2 Title II audits, and our Title II audit was done totally virtually and came out with no issues, no concerns.
Federal monitoring changes are occurring from the State Department of Federal Programs, and they are going to this consolidated approach where our last Title I audit was June of 2019 in May, and there were no findings with that. As Dr. Mills just stated, our last Title II audit was this past year in May, and there were no findings with that. We are projecting, but have not received from the State Department yet, that we will have our consolidated audit this coming year, but it may be the following year. And that information will be shared with you as soon as we receive it. But it is the State Department is moving in the consolidated, or they'll be adding on every year. But right now it would be Title I, II, III, IV, and we're not eligible for Title V as it was. But I'll let you know if we are.
And my last slide just identifies two very important programs that we support under Title I. That's our McKinney-Vento and our foster care. As of February 2022, and this does have subject to be changed periodically as families come into the office with a need, but we have 82 families that's been identified with McKinney-Vento, all part of our Homeless Act that we support here at Sumter School District. We have 96 foster care students and 8 unaccompanied youth. And of course, our unaccompanied youth are normally our 17-year-olds or maybe 18-year-olds that's still in school that does not have a legal guardian assigned to them.
Thank you for your assistance, Dr. Mills. If there's any questions, we'll be glad to entertain those at this time.
Any questions?
Yes, Dr. Jackson, I have a question.
Dr. James?
Yes, Dr. McLeod, you or Dr. Mills can answer this question. I heard Dr. Mills' presentation, and he said that they stress a lot where they try to enforce that principles, spend their monies so that they won't have to give it back to the state. That's their goal. Have we ever found ourselves in a position where we had to send monies back?
Yes, there are always situations that occur when the spin down has ended if you can't provide the amendment. We've had issues in the past where there have been supply chain issues with due to COVID. So there has been some that it's not really sent back, it wasn't all claimed. But what the state then does is that they have a period of time, they bring the unclaimed funds back into the state and redisperse again. So you still have a period of time when the redisbursement occurs. But we have, in fact, we met with all of the schools that are in some kind of priority status in the last week to ensure that they'll be able to receive their materials or whatever their services that they're purchasing, such as professional development, will be available before the funds expire. So we're trying to get those different vendors to be able to guarantee delivery.
So are the principals on track to be able to spend 95% of their monies by the end of the school year?
So we're working very closely with them. We've got information and purchase orders and those kinds of things coming in really heavy right now to ensure we want to get ahead of it to make sure that there's not going to be an issue with not being able to receive our services or materials.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Reverend, you just led me to a couple of questions. And Dr. McLeod, you may be able to answer this better suited than Dr. Mills. Can you elaborate a little bit on how that community needs assessment is conducted? I'm going to throw some questions at you, and you can answer them however you want to answer them. How is the community needs assessment conducted? Are the same questions asked each year concerning the needs of the community? And are we seeing actual results of the programming that we're implementing based on that community needs assessment?
The community is invited in every year. We actually have to even advertise in the paper when it's time to have the district meeting. So the schools do their own, and they solicit community members to participate, as well as parents and others within the school that would be at the different levels to give different feedback and viewpoints. And it's been more difficult due to COVID, because a lot of the things that we have prioritized, things kept changing as far as being able to participate in staff development or You think they're going to conferences because they're focused on reading instruction improvement, but then at the very last minute, the conference gets changed to virtual, so that changes all of your budgeting. Those kinds of things have made it much more difficult. But we're actually working with the Office of Federal Programs at the State Department, as they have just had a huge changeover. And they're going to be coming in to work with us to make our comprehensive needs assessment as comprehensive as possible. Our goal is to not have different needs assessments for different things happening. Everything should be from that one needs assessment. It should show everything, and then we can prioritize it from that one assessment.
Thank you.
So that's your question now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So this concludes the superintendent's report, but I also stand corrected, just because I'm present in schools and I had a flashback. Earlier I gave compliments to Dana Williams, who used to be an assistant principal here at Millwood, and it should have been Dana Mitchell. So I just needed to correct myself with that. But at this time, this concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you, Dr. McLeod. Thank you, Dr. Mills, and Ms. Pond.
Okay, and thank you, Dr. Martin Knox, for those reports and those persons giving the report. I do appreciate you. And as we approach executive session portion of the meeting, I want to thank our staff and our visitors for attending and or participating in tonight's proceedings thus far. We hope that you will be with us when we return to open session. However, if you must leave, please remain safe, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you. But prior to entering into executive session, I ask trustees to expressly affirm that appropriate precautions to safeguard the privacy and integrity of the closed session, including but not limited to precautions that would reasonably ensure that the closed session is not being recorded without the board's permission, and that no unauthorized persons can hear or access the discussion or other confidential information. This goes to those persons that might be virtual. Dr. Lee, is there anyone entering into executive session who does not affirm this? Okay, trustees, is there a motion to enter into executive session at this time? Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
Madam Chair, I move that we enter into executive session for discussion of personnel report, employment, appointment, compensation, promotion, demotion, discipline, termination, and/or release of an employee, receipt of legal advice related to a potential claim, or other matters covered by the attorney-client relationship.
Do I get a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Please cast your vote. Amy, did you send it to me?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see it.
You to enter it?
Yes.
Vote unanimous.
Okay. The motion passes. The motion passes, and the board is now in, for the personnel report. Dr. Martin Knox, do you have any recommendation for the personnel report?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I ask the board to approve the personnel report as discussed in executive session.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board accept the superintendent's recommendation and approve the February personnel report at this time.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to accept the superintendent's recommendation for the board approval of the February personnel report. Is there any discussion? Please cast your vote.
That's unanimous.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. All right, textbook special adoption, K through 5 ELA. Dr. Martin Knox, do you have a recommendation for the special textbook adoption?
Yes, ma'am. I ask the board to approve the recommendation for the special textbook adoption as discussed earlier in open session.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that the board accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the textbook special adoption K through 5 ELA Salvus My View Literacy.
Second.
Okay, a motion has been made and second to accept the superintendent's recommendation for board approval of the textbook special adoption for K-5 ELA Salvus My View Literacy. Is there any discussion? Please cast your vote.
That is unanimous.
Motion passes unanimously. 8.4, trustees, you heard earlier in the meeting the result of the meeting with Shaw Air Force Base Commander and his recommendation that the military representative remain with the position of the Deputy Director of Installation Support. Is there a motion?
Madam Chairwoman, I move that the board accept the position of the military representative as recommended by the Shaw Air Force Base Commander.
Second.
A motion, there is a motion and a second that the board approves the language or equivalent allowed by Shaw Air Force Base Commander's recommendation for the civilian position, Deputy Director of Installation Support, to serve as board's military representative. Is there any discussion? Please cast your vote.
That's unanimous.
The motion passes unanimously. 8.5, board meetings and practices. Trustees, you heard earlier in the meeting the discussion regarding our board meeting practices. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve board meeting practices by striking language from future board meeting agendas, quote, but with limited first come, first served seating due to COVID-19, end quote, and include a rotation of schools for all board meetings.
Second.
Okay. There is a motion and a second that the board strikes the language from future board meetings agendas, quote, but with limited first come, first served seating due to COVID-19, end of quote, and include a rotation of schools for all board meetings. Is there any discussion? Please cast your vote.
Mr. McLeod, it says you're not present at vote.
Good one.
Yay.
That's unanimous.
The motion passes unanimously. 8.6, policy amendments, second reading, readings, ADF, district wellness policy. Trustees, you heard earlier in the meeting the policy committee report regarding second reading of our district wellness policy. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve second reading of amendments to ADF, district wellness policy.
Second.
There is a motion and a second that the board approves second reading of policy ADF. Is there any discussion? Please cast your vote.
Also is unanimous?
The motion passes unanimously. Are there any objections to the approval of the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda stands approved. To all our meeting participants and viewers, may we remain healthy and safe. Have a wonderful week and a happy Valentine's Day to you, all you love. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 9:25 p.m. Thank you.